My girlfriend broke up with me, saying she needed to work on herself and wasn't ready for anything serious. I wished her well and moved on. 4 months later, she was all over social media with her friend who was helping her heal. When she texted, "I made a mistake, can we talk?" I replied, "I'm getting married next month," and she completely lost her mind. I'm David, 29, and I work as a physical therapist at a sports medicine clinic in Denver. Until 8 months ago, I thought I had my life figured out. I was in what I believed was a solid 2-year relationship with Amanda, a graphic designer I'd met at a mutual friend's housewarming party. We'd been living together for 6 months, splitting rent on a decent 1-bedroom apartment near downtown, and honestly, I was starting to think about rings forever. Amanda was the kind of person who drew people to her effortlessly. She had this infectious laugh and a way of making everyone feel like they were the most interesting person in the room. She was creative, spontaneous, and brought this energy to my life that I'd never experienced before. Where I was methodical and planned everything down to the minute, she was the one who'd suggest midnight drives to watch the sunrise from the mountains or impromptu weekend trips to small Colorado towns we'd never heard of. But looking back now, I realized there were signs I chose to ignore. Amanda had this pattern of starting projects with massive enthusiasm only to abandon them weeks later. She'd started 3 different online businesses in the time I'd known her, each one the thing that was going to change everything. She'd cycle through friend groups, becoming intensely close with people before gradually distancing herself when they failed to meet some invisible standard. She was always searching for something: the perfect job, the perfect creative outlet, the perfect social circle. The conversation that changed everything happened on a Tuesday night in February. We'd just finished dinner at this little Thai place we both loved, and Amanda seemed unusually quiet during the meal. She kept checking her phone and giving distracted answers to my questions about her day. When we got home, she sat me down on our couch with this serious expression I'd never seen before. "David, I need to talk to you about something important," she said, her hands fidgeting with the throw pillow between us. "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about my life, about where I am and where I want to be." My stomach immediately dropped. Nothing good ever started with those words. "I've realized that I've been jumping from relationship to relationship since I was 18, she continued, not meeting my eyes. "I've never actually taken time to figure out who I am as an individual person. I don't know what I want for my career, what makes me truly happy, or even what my own interests are outside of whoever I'm dating." I felt like I was watching our relationship crumble in real time, but I forced myself to listen. "I think I need to take a step back from us," she said, finally looking at me. "I need to work on myself, do some serious self-reflection. I'm not ready for anything serious right now. I need to learn how to be alone and discover what I actually want from life." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. "Where is this coming from?" I managed to ask. "We were just talking about getting a bigger place together last week." "I know, and that's part of the problem," she said. "I keep making these big life decisions based on what feels right in the moment, but I don't think I've ever made a choice based on what I actually want for my future. I need space to figure that out." I wanted to argue, to point out all the ways we work together, to remind her of our plans and dreams. But something in her expression told me her mind was already made up. "How much space are we talking about?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer. "I think we should break up," she said quietly. "I need to be completely on my own for a while. No safety net, no backup plan. Just me figuring out my life." The conversation lasted another hour, with Amanda explaining how this wasn't about me personally, how I was an amazing boyfriend, how she needed to do this for herself. She talked about maybe reconnecting in the future when she'd figured things out, but insisted that waiting for her wouldn't be fair to me. I respected her decision, even though it felt like my world was falling apart. I helped her pack her things the next weekend, maintaining a calm facade while internally screaming. She'd found a studio apartment across town and seemed almost relieved as she loaded her car with boxes of her belongings. "I hope you understand someday," she said as she was leaving. "This is something I have to do." I nodded and wished her well, because what else could I do? I watched her drive away and then spent the rest of the day sitting in our suddenly empty apartment, staring at the spaces where her things used to be. The next few weeks were rough. I threw myself into work, picking up extra shifts and taking on weekend seminars. My colleagues noticed my increased dedication, and my supervisor even mentioned that I seemed more focused than ever. But the truth was, work was the only thing that kept my mind off the gaping hole Amanda had left in my life. I didn't reach out to her. I figured if she needed space to work on herself, the least I could do was respect that. I removed her from my social media feeds, not out of anger, but because seeing updates about her new life would have been torture. I was genuinely trying to move on. About 6 weeks after the breakup, my friend Chris invited me to join his recreational volleyball league. I played in college and figured it might be good to get back into it. The team practiced twice a week and had games on Sundays, giving me something to look forward to besides work. That's where I met Elena. Elena was on the opposing team during our third game. She was a nurse at Presbyterian Hospital, had moved to Denver from Phoenix 2 years earlier, and had the most genuine smile I'd ever seen. During the post-game drinks that our teams traditionally shared, we ended up talking for hours about everything from our shared love of hiking to our completely different approaches to coffee preparation. She was funny, intelligent, and had this calming presence that felt like the opposite of Amanda's chaotic energy. We started texting regularly, meeting for coffee between her shifts and my appointments. Elena was different from anyone I'd dated before. Where Amanda was impulsive and dramatic, Elena was thoughtful and steady. She'd actually finished nursing school, built a career she loved, and had a clear sense of what she wanted from life. She didn't need constant validation or excitement. She was genuinely content with simple pleasures like Sunday morning farmers markets and evening walks around her neighborhood. 3 months after meeting Elena, I realized I was falling for her. It wasn't the desperate, anxious attachment I'd felt with Amanda. This was something deeper and more secure. Elena made me feel appreciated for who I was, not for what I could provide or how I could enhance her life experience. We made things official 4 months after the breakup with Amanda. Elena suggested we take a weekend trip to Aspen, and as we sat on the deck of our cabin watching the sunset over the mountains, I felt this incredible sense of peace. This was what a healthy relationship felt like, two people choosing each other every day, not because they needed each other, but because they genuinely wanted to share their lives. Meanwhile, I'd heard absolutely nothing from Amanda. Which was exactly what I'd expected, given her stated need for complete independence and self-discovery. Then, exactly 4 months after our breakup, I got a text from my friend Jake. "Dude, you need to see this. Check Amanda's Instagram." I'd unfollowed Amanda months ago, but I could still view her profile. What I saw made my stomach drop. Her feed was full of photos from the past month showing her with someone I recognized, Marcus, a guy she'd mentioned as a friend from her yoga class. But these weren't casual friendship photos. They were hiking together in Rocky Mountain National Park, sharing intimate dinners at romantic restaurants, and cuddling on what was clearly his couch and what was clearly his apartment. The most recent photo, posted just hours earlier, showed them at Red Rocks Amphitheater with the caption, "So grateful for this beautiful soul who's been helping me heal and discover who I really am. Sometimes the universe brings exactly what you need when you need it most. #blessed, #healing, #new chapter." I scrolled through weeks of posts documenting their relationship progression. Based on the dates and locations, they'd clearly been together for at least 6 weeks. Maybe longer. My hands were shaking as I realized what this meant. Amanda hadn't needed space to work on herself. She'd needed space to be with Marcus without technically cheating on me. All that talk about self-discovery and learning to be alone had been complete nonsense. She just wanted a clean transition from one relationship to another. I showed Elena the photos when she came over that evening. She looked through them with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "I'm so sorry," she said, setting my phone down. "That must be incredibly hurtful to discover." "I just feel stupid," I admitted. All those conversations about needing to find herself, and she was already planning her next relationship. Elena took my hands in hers. "You're not stupid for trusting someone you cared about. This says nothing about you and everything about her character." That conversation made me realize how different Elena was from Amanda. Where Amanda would have made this discovery about her, would have demanded detailed explanations and assurances about my feelings, Elena simply offered comfort and perspective. She trusted me to process this information without needing to control my response. I didn't contact Amanda. What would have been the point? I'd already moved on and found something real. Seeing those photos actually brought me closure, confirmation that my instincts had been right about our relationship not being as solid as I'd thought. 2 weeks later, Elena and I had the conversation about our future. It happened naturally during a lazy Sunday morning in bed. We were talking about her lease renewal when she mentioned casually that she'd been thinking about finding a place with more space. "More space for what?" I asked. "I don't know," she said with a smile. "Maybe for someone else's stuff to go alongside mine." 6 weeks later, Elena moved into my apartment. It was the easiest transition I'd ever experienced. Where living with Amanda had felt like constant negotiation and compromise, living with Elena felt like two puzzle pieces clicking into place. We had similar cleanliness standards, compatible schedules, and the same approach to finances. More importantly, we genuinely enjoyed each other's company during the quiet everyday moments that make up most of a relationship. 3 months after Elena moved in, I bought a ring. Not because I felt pressured or because it seemed like the next logical step, but because I couldn't imagine my future without her in it. Elena was my partner in the truest sense, someone who made every aspect of life better just by being present. I proposed on a hiking trail in Garden of the Gods on a crisp October morning. Elena said yes before I'd even finished my speech, laughing and crying simultaneously. We decided on a short engagement. Why wait when we were both certain? We set the date for early December, planning a small ceremony with just our immediate families and closest friends. Everything was falling into place perfectly. We'd sent invitations, booked the venue, ordered flowers. Elena had found the perfect dress, and I'd arranged for my cousin to officiate the ceremony. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Then, 3 weeks before our wedding, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I hadn't seen in 8 months. "Hey David, I know it's been a while but I was hoping we could talk. I've been doing a lot of thinking and I think I made a mistake. Can we meet for coffee sometime this week?" I stared at the message for a long moment, then showed it to Elena. "What are you going to say?" she asked, no trace of jealousy or concern in her voice. I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds before typing my response. "I'm getting married next month. I hope you're well, but I don't think meeting up would be appropriate." Amanda's reply came within minutes. "Married? To who? It's only been 8 months since we broke up. How can you possibly know someone well enough to marry them after such a short time?" Then another text. "David, please don't make any huge decisions without talking to me first. We had something special. You know we did." And another, "I saw on your Instagram that you're with some nurse. This is clearly a rebound relationship. You're making a mistake." I turned off my phone and spent the evening focusing on Elena and our wedding planning. When I turned it back on the next morning, there were 7 more messages from Amanda, each one more desperate than the last. Elena suggested I should probably respond once more, clearly and firmly, to avoid any escalation. So I sent a final text. "Amanda, I'm happy with Elena and we're getting married in 3 weeks. Please respect my relationship and don't contact me again." Update 1. I thought that would be the end of it, but Amanda apparently had other plans. Instead of backing off, she seemed to take my engagement as a personal challenge. The Instagram activity started immediately. Amanda began liking and commenting on every single one of my posts from the past year, photos with Elena, pictures from our hiking trips, even mundane posts about my work achievements. Her comments were calculated to seem supportive while actually being inappropriate. "You look so happy. Miss you. And wow, this Elena girl is lucky to have such an amazing guy." Then she started following Elena on Instagram and commenting on her posts too. Nothing overtly hostile, but definitely crossing boundaries. Comments like, "David has such great taste in women. And hope you two are taking things slow. David's heart is very precious." Elena handled it with more grace than I probably would have. "She's clearly struggling with your engagement," Elena observed after showing me Amanda's latest comment. "I actually feel sorry for her." That's when I realized I'd made the right choice. Elena's first instinct was compassion, even towards someone who was clearly trying to cause problems in our relationship. But Amanda wasn't done. A week later, she escalated. I was at work when I got a call from my friend Chris. "Hey man, this is weird, but Amanda called me asking for your address. She said she had some of your stuff to return and wanted to drop it off. I didn't give it to her, obviously, but thought you should know." Over the next few days, Amanda contacted several of our mutual friends with similar requests. She told Jake she had important mail that had been delivered to her old apartment. She told my volleyball teammate Ryan that she needed to return some books I'd lent her. Each story was slightly different, but the goal was clearly the same: get my current address. When those attempts failed, she tried a different approach. Elena's coworker mentioned that someone had called the hospital asking about Elena's schedule, claiming to be planning a surprise for her. The caller had hung up when pressed for details, but Elena suspected it was Amanda trying to figure out when she'd be home alone. "This is getting creepy," Elena said after we'd compared notes about Amanda's various attempts at contact. "Should we be worried?" I decided it was time to set firmer boundaries. I sent Amanda one final message: "Your attempts to contact my friends and find our address are inappropriate and need to stop immediately. If you continue this behavior, I will involve the police. Do not contact me, Elena, or anyone in our social circle again." Her response was immediate and unhinged. "I can't believe you're threatening me. I was just trying to be mature about returning your things. You've changed so much since you started dating that woman. She's clearly manipulating you against me. The David the first knew would never talk to me like this." Then, "I'm not trying to cause problems. I just think you're rushing into something serious without thinking it through. Don't you think it's suspicious that this Elena person moved in with you so quickly? Normal people take more time before making such big commitments. And finally, fine. But don't come crying to me when this rebound relationship falls apart and you realize what you threw away." I blocked her number after that exchange, but Amanda found other ways to make her presence known. Update 2. 2 weeks before our wedding, Amanda showed up at my workplace. I was between patient appointments when our receptionist, Linda, came back to find me. "There's a woman at the front desk asking to see you," she said with a concerned expression. "She says she's an old friend, but something about her seems off." I walked to the lobby and there was Amanda, looking perfectly put together in a way that seemed calculated for maximum impact. She was wearing the red dress I'd always complimented her in, her hair styled exactly the way she knew I liked it. "David," she said brightly, as if running into me at my own workplace was perfectly normal. "You look great. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by." The neighborhood excuse was ridiculous. Amanda lived across town and had no reason to be anywhere near the sports medicine clinic where I worked. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice professional since we were in my workplace. "I just wanted to see you," she said, her voice taking on that vulnerable tone I remembered from our more serious conversations. "I miss talking to you. We were together for 2 years, doesn't that mean anything to you?" Linda was clearly eavesdropping from behind the reception desk, probably ready to call security if needed. "We ended things 8 months ago," I said firmly. "You said you needed space to work on yourself. I respected that decision and moved on." "But I've done the work," Amanda insisted. "I've figured out what I want, and it's you. It's always been you. This whole thing with Marcus was just me trying to convince myself I could be happy with someone else, but I can't. You're the one, David." So she was admitting that the entire self-discovery narrative had been false. She'd left me for Marcus, not for personal growth. "Amanda, I'm getting married in 2 weeks," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm happy with Elena. I need you to respect that and stop contacting me." Her expression shifted from vulnerable to angry. 2 weeks? Are you kidding me? You're rushing into marriage with someone you barely know just to prove some point to me? "I'm marrying Elena because I love her," I said. "This has nothing to do with you." "Everything has to do with me," Amanda snapped, her voice rising enough that other people in the lobby started staring. "I'm the one who taught you how to open up emotionally. I'm the one who showed you how to be spontaneous and live in the moment. Without me, you'd still be the boring, rigid person you were when we met." That stung, because there was a grain of truth to it. Amanda had pushed me out of my comfort zone in some positive ways. But she'd also created chaos and instability that I'd mistaken for excitement. "I need you to leave," I said firmly. "If you don't, I'll have to call security." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "You're really going to throw away everything we had? For what? Some plain nurse who probably makes you watch medical documentaries for fun?" The dismissive way she talked about Elena, someone she'd never even met, showed me exactly who Amanda really was underneath all the charm and manipulation. "Goodbye, Amanda," I said, and walked back toward the patient rooms. I could hear her calling my name as I left, but I didn't turn around. Linda later told me that Amanda stood in the lobby for another 10 minutes before finally leaving. That evening, I told Elena about the encounter. She listened without interrupting, then asked, "How are you feeling about it?" "Honestly? Grateful," I said. Seeing her again just confirmed that I made the right choice. She hasn't changed at all, still creating drama, still trying to manipulate situations to get what she wants. Elena nodded. "I'm proud of how you handled it. That couldn't have been easy." This was another moment that highlighted the difference between Amanda and Elena. Amanda would have demanded detailed accounts of every word exchanged, would have needed constant reassurance about my feelings, would have probably shown up at my workplace the next day to mark her territory. Elena trusted me to handle the situation and was more concerned about my emotional well-being than her own insecurity. Update 3. Our wedding day arrived, and it was perfect. Small, intimate, filled with people who genuinely cared about our happiness. Elena looked radiant in her simple but elegant dress. My parents, who had never quite warmed to Amanda, couldn't stop telling me how much they loved Elena. Her family welcomed me with open arms, treating me like they'd known me for years instead of months. During the ceremony, as Elena and I exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, I felt this overwhelming sense of rightness. This was what love was supposed to feel like, not the anxious, uncertain emotion I'd mistaken for passion with Amanda, but something steady and sure and built to last. We'd made it through the entire ceremony and most of the reception without any drama. I was beginning to think Amanda had finally accepted reality and moved on. I was wrong. As Elena and I were saying goodbye to the last few guests, my cousin Jake approached with a concerned expression. "Hey, there's someone outside asking about you. Says she's an old friend who wanted to congratulate you." My stomach dropped. Blonde woman? Red dress? Jake nodded. I told her the reception was over and she should probably head home, but she's still out there. Elena was talking to her sister across the room, completely unaware of the potential situation developing outside. I decided to handle it myself before it could escalate into something that would ruin the end of our perfect day. Amanda was standing next to her car in the parking lot, and she looked terrible. Her makeup was smeared like she'd been crying, her hair was disheveled, and she was clutching her phone like a lifeline. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" I asked, staying a safe distance away. "I had to see for myself," she said, her voice hoarse. "I couldn't believe you actually went through with it." "Of course I went through with it. I told you I was getting married. But I thought if you saw me again, if you remembered what we had." She trailed off, looking at me with desperate eyes. "Amanda, we've been broken up for almost a year. You left me for Marcus, remember? You're the one who said you needed space." "Marcus was a mistake," she said quickly. "I ended things with him months ago. He was just a distraction while I figured out my feelings for you." "Your feelings for me?" I couldn't hide my disbelief. "You literally told me you weren't ready for anything serious. You said you needed to work on yourself." I lied. "Okay?" She shouted, loud enough that people inside the venue could probably hear. I was scared of how serious things were getting between us. I panicked and made up that whole story about needing space. "So you've been lying to me for a year." I was protecting myself. "You were talking about our future like it was inevitable, and I got overwhelmed. I thought if I took a break, dated someone else for a while, I could figure out if what we had was real." The complete selfishness of this logic was staggering. "So you used Marcus as an experiment while I grieved our relationship?" "It wasn't like that," she said, but she couldn't meet my eyes. "It was exactly like that, Amanda. And now that your experiment didn't work out the way you planned, you want to come back to your safety net." That's when Elena appeared beside me. I hadn't heard her approach, but there she was, still in her wedding dress, looking calm and beautiful and completely unbothered by the scene unfolding in front of her. "Hi," Elena said to Amanda, extending her hand. "I'm Elena. I don't think we've been properly introduced." Amanda stared at Elena's outstretched hand like it was a snake. "You're the one who stole my boyfriend." Elena's eyebrows raised slightly, but her voice remained perfectly pleasant. "I didn't steal anyone. David and I met months after you two broke up. According to him, you ended things because you wanted to work on yourself." "That's not what happened," Amanda said, her voice rising again. "He's just saying that to make himself look better. The truth is, our relationship was complicated, and I needed some time to sort through my feelings. But I never stopped loving him." Elena looked at me, then back at Amanda. "I'm sorry you're hurting," she said, and I could tell she genuinely meant it. "But David and I are married now. We're building a life together. I think the kindest thing for everyone would be for you to focus on your own healing and moving forward." The compassion in Elena's voice seemed to break something in Amanda. She started crying harder, mascara streaming down her cheeks. "You don't understand," Amanda sobbed. "We were supposed to end up together. I made a mistake, but people make mistakes. He can't just throw away 2 years because I got scared and needed some space." "Amanda," I said firmly, "you didn't just need space. You immediately started dating someone else. You posted photos of your new relationship all over social media. You made it very clear that you had moved on. Because I was trying to make you jealous." She screamed. "I wanted you to fight for me. I wanted you to realize what you were losing and come after me." The admission hung in the air between us. Elena's hand found mine, her fingers intertwining with mine in a gesture of solidarity. "So you manipulated the situation to try to control my emotions," I said. "That's not love, Amanda. That's emotional manipulation." "I was just confused," she said, but the fight was going out of her voice. "I didn't know how to handle my feelings. But I know now. I know what I want." "What you want doesn't matter anymore," Elena said, not unkindly. "David made his choice. I made mine. We're committed to each other and to our marriage." Amanda looked between us, perhaps finally understanding that this wasn't a phase or a rebound, but a real relationship built on mutual respect and genuine love. "This isn't over," she said finally, but without much conviction. "Yes, it is," I said. "Goodbye, Amanda." We watched her drive away, then went back inside to finish cleaning up from our reception. Our families had tactfully given us space to handle the situation, but Elena's sister approached as we walked back in. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Everything's perfect," Elena said, squeezing my hand. "Just someone who needed help letting go of the past." Final update. It's been 6 months since our wedding, and life with Elena continues to exceed my expectations. We've settled into married life like we've been doing it for years. Elena got promoted to charge nurse on her unit, and I opened my own practice with 2 colleagues from my previous job. We bought a small house with a yard big enough for the dog we're planning to adopt next month. I haven't heard from Amanda since the wedding night, though I occasionally get updates through mutual friends. Apparently, she moved to Austin for a fresh start and is dating a musician she met at a coffee shop. Based on her social media, which I check maybe once every few months out of curiosity, she seems to be following the same patterns: intense beginning, constant documentation, declarations of finding her soulmate. I don't wish her any ill will. I hope she eventually figures out what she's looking for and learns to build something genuine instead of chasing the idea of romance. But I'm grateful that her search for herself led her away from me and toward Elena. Elena and I talk sometimes about how different our relationship is from anything either of us experienced before. There's no drama, no games, no need to guess at each other's feelings or motivations. We're just two people who chose each other and continue choosing each other every day. The most valuable lesson I learned from the whole experience with Amanda is the difference between love and attachment. With Amanda, I was attached to the idea of us, to the potential I saw in our relationship, to the version of herself she presented when things were good. With Elena, I love who she actually is, her consistency, her kindness, her quiet strength, her terrible jokes, her habit of leaving coffee cups in every room of the house. Love isn't about finding someone who completes you or makes you feel alive with constant excitement. It's about finding someone who makes ordinary life feel extraordinary just by being present for it. To anyone going through something similar, someone who claims they need space to work on themselves while immediately jumping into something else, trust your instincts. Real personal growth doesn't require an audience or a backup plan. People who genuinely need time alone actually take time alone. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is having someone walk away and show you that what you thought was love was really just familiarity, habit, and the fear of being alone. Elena and I are planning a trip to Europe next spring for our first anniversary. We're talking about kids, about expanding the house, about all the ordinary dreams that make up a real life together. Amanda gave me the gift of learning what I didn't want in a partner, which made it possible to recognize what I did want when Elena came along. Life has a funny way of working out when you stop chasing people who don't want to be caught and remain open to finding someone who wants to build something real with you.